It's Wine Time Tuesday, and today I'm going to talk about swirling your wine. Why do you swirl your wine? How do you swirl your wine? What does it mean? A lot of people think it's just kind of a pretentious thing to do. Some people, you have to be careful or you'll make a big mess. Nobody wants to have wine on their clothing, especially not red wine. So I thought I would just do a little bit of explanation about why you want to swirl your wine and then how to do it. So then if you go to parties or somewhere fancy, you can look like you're a professional. So first of all, if you pour your glass of wine, and I thought I would show a red and a white because they're different styles of glasses, different shapes, and so you can kind of see you can do it with any glass. But first thing I'm going to have you do is next time you pour yourself a glass of wine, just without doing anything else, pick up the glass of wine and give it a sniff. Okay? Then you swirl. After you swirl, that infuses or puts oxygen into your wine. So it woofs it up and it gets oxygen in there and it brings out all the aromas. So oxygen, as I've mentioned before, is your wine's friend and then it's its enemy. So you want your wine to, as they say, open up. You want it to give you all the aromas that it can offer. But if you give it too much oxygen, so you leave it sitting out all night and then come back, it's too late. It's had too much oxygen and it will start to oxidize or go bad and it won't smell nice at all. So there's a fine line there. But anyway, if you want to learn how to swirl, you can practice with water just to be sure. But first of all, you don't want to pour too deep of a pour. And I usually recommend that you just pour up to where the bowl of the glass starts to widen. So when you get about to the widest point, then you stop. Okay, so you've noticed that's how my pours are here. When you get to that widest point, you stop. And that gives you a nice pour of wine, but you can still manage it, you can still swirl it. And so it's the really right amount for this. Now, to swirl, if you want to make it easy, you can just set your glass down. I'm going to move the white out of the way just for a minute so you can see this. And leave it on the table or bar or whatever the surface is. And then you want to hold it. Now, you can either do it like a pencil, like pinchers with 2 fingers, or I usually use 3. So I usually use these 2 fingers and my thumb. But so either way, you grab it like this or like this, and you can swirl it on the table. Okay? Now that way you don't have to worry about losing control or sloshing too much. You can keep more control. And what you do is you just take, like you're taking a pencil and drawing little circles on the table. And you do want to really get it moving, because if you just barely move your wine around, you're not going to get that oxygen and you won't get all those aromas. So you can test drive that yourself. Pour yourself a glass of wine, sniff it, just give it a little swirl, sniff it, and then really give it a swirl like you're supposed to do. Big old healthy swirl. And then you'll see the difference in the aromas. Okay, so you can do the same thing. Like I said, some people like to do the 2-finger method. I usually feel more in control if I use both my first 2 fingers and my thumb, but you want to do it that way. Okay, now just once you get that down, then you do the exact same thing. So I'm doing this on the table, and you just pick it up and you're doing it in the air. Okay, so you still are just drawing little tiny circles with your wrist. Okay, sometimes these smaller glasses, make it easier to swirl. And you just hold it up in the air, and sometimes I rest the base or the foot of the glass against my palm, and sometimes I might grip it a little bit higher up toward the bowl, and that's really what you're comfortable with. Okay, so whatever's comfortable in your hand. So again, you can rest the base against your hand a little bit as you're swirling, or you can bring your hand up closer to the bowl, and that's fine too. So either the foot or the bowl, whatever feels comfortable, but you want to get those little circles to get your wine swirling. Okay, then of course you would do the sniff, and then you would do your tasting. Now another thing is, just since I'm talking about this in a social setting, if you're at a party, a couple of tips. First of all, when you're holding your glass of wine, you always want to hold it by the stem. You don't want to hold it like this. For one thing, you're warming up your wine if it's chilled. And even if it's not chilled, then you're putting fingerprints all over your glass. Okay, so you always want to have clear glasses, and you always want to be able to see your wine. And if you've been handling your glass too much, then it's going to have fingerprints all over it. The other thing is, when you're drinking from your glass, especially for the ladies, but even for the guys, always put your lips on the same side of the glass. So pick a spot, pick a side, and then always drink from that same point. One reason is because otherwise you're going to lipstick or lip prints all the way around the glass, which looks kind of gross. And the other thing is you're going to start sort of sniffing your own lipstick and stuff. So you want to just put your lips on the same side all the time and try to keep to that so that you don't have lip prints all the way around the outside. So another little sort of party tip. So I expect you to give this a try at home, practice your swirling techniques, and the next time you go to a party, you'll be ready to go. And it's wine time. Cheers.